What if the reason every nation on Earth holds U.S. dollars isn't because the U.S. economy is the strongest, but because of a secret deal made in a desert palace in 1974, a deal between an American Secretary of State and an oil kingdom that nobody voted for, nobody debated, and almost nobody knows about, a deal that still controls your savings, your country's currency, and the price of every item in every store. To understand the petrodollar, you must first understand what it replaced. In 1944, after World War II, world leaders met in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, and agreed that the dollar would be the global reserve currency, backed by gold, exchangeable at $35 per ounce. For 25 years, this system held. Then, in 1971, Richard Nixon shattered it. The U.S. had printed far more dollars than it had gold to back them. Nixon's solution: unilaterally end the gold convertibility. The dollar became backed by nothing. The world's reserve currency was suddenly just paper. With the dollar unmoored from gold, the U.S. faced a catastrophic credibility crisis. Foreign nations could dump their dollar reserves, triggering hyperinflation. Enter Henry Kissinger. In 1974, Kissinger flew to Riyadh and struck a deal with the Saudi royal family, a deal so consequential it has never been fully declassified. The terms: Saudi Arabia would price all its oil exclusively in U.S. dollars, convince OPEC to do the same, and reinvest its oil surplus into U.S. Treasury bonds, financing America's debt. In exchange, U.S. military protection of the Saudi regime, guaranteed arms sales, and permanent American backing of the House of Saud. This single agreement created an elegant trap for the entire world. Here's the mechanism. Oil is the lifeblood of every modern economy. Every nation needs oil to run factories, transport goods, heat homes. Since OPEC priced oil in dollars, every nation on Earth had to hold dollar reserves just to buy energy. This created permanent, structural demand for dollars, regardless of American economic performance. Meanwhile, Saudi and Gulf petrodollar surpluses flooded back into U.S. Treasury bonds, financing American military and fiscal deficits. The cycle was self-reinforcing. More oil sold, more dollars demanded, more U.S. debt bought, more military power projected, more oil fields protected. The petrodollar system has enabled the United States to run trade deficits for 50 consecutive years, importing more than it exports, without facing the economic collapse that would destroy any other country. It has allowed the U.S. to finance wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, all nations that threaten to price oil in other currencies, without triggering dollar hyperinflation. Saddam Hussein announced oil sales in euros in 2000. He was dead by 2003. Muammar Gaddafi proposed a gold-backed African dinar to replace the dollar in oil trade. NATO invaded Libya in 2011. Coincidence? According to declassified French intelligence documents, Gaddafi's currency plan was the primary motivation for the intervention. But the system is cracking. In 2023, Saudi Arabia began accepting Chinese yuan for oil sales to China, the first non-dollar oil deal with a major OPEC member since 1974. China and Russia have established a parallel payment system, CIPES, specifically designed to bypass SWIFT and the dollar. The BRICS bloc announced a new reserve currency project, backed by a basket of commodities. India now buys Russian oil in rupees. Brazil and China agreed to trade directly in their own currencies. The 50-year petrodollar consensus is fracturing in real time, and the U.S. knows it. What happens when the petrodollar system ends? The U.S. loses the structural advantage that has allowed it to print money without immediate inflation consequences. The dollar's value falls relative to commodity-backed currencies. U.S. interest rates must rise dramatically to attract foreign capital that no longer needs to hold dollars. The American military-industrial complex loses its primary financing mechanism. For the rest of the world, and especially for countries in the global south that have been trapped paying for dollar reserves, de-dollarization represents a historic opportunity for genuine financial sovereignty. The chains are loosening. The question is whether nations have the courage and the alternative infrastructure to break them. The petrodollar was never about economic efficiency. It was about power. The power to force the entire world to hold an IOU from a government that can print unlimited quantities of that IOU. For 50 years, the world paid tribute to Washington through every oil transaction. That era is ending. Understanding this system, who built it, who benefits, who is dismantling it, is not academic. It is the foundation of financial sovereignty, because you cannot protect what you don't understand, and you cannot be free in a monetary system you never chose.